The morning sun stretched across the Montana grasslands like honey poured from a jar. Thomas Whitaker stood before the old ranch house, his weathered hands resting on his hips, his shadow long and thin against the golden field. The white sheet before him rippled gently in the breeze, concealing something beneath its folds. Behind him, the barn stood silent and patient, its red paint faded by decades of wind and weather, its stone foundation crumbling at the edges. Thomas had lived on this land for 43 years. He knew every fence post, every worn path through the grass, every squeaking board in the house. This place was written into his bones like words carved into ancient wood. But someone else had known it just as well, perhaps even better. Someone who had left 20 years ago and never looked back. Her name was Sarah. She had been his partner in everything. Together they had mended fences in the spring, brought in hay during the long summer days, and sat on the porch during winter evenings, watching the snow fall like feathers from a torn pillow. Sarah had loved this ranch with a fierce, protective love. She had drawn sketches of every building, photographed every corner, collected samples of soil and pressed flowers between the pages of old books. But loving something and being able to stay with it were two different things. The ranch had been failing for years. The machinery broke down more often than it worked. The cattle prices dropped while the feed costs climbed higher and higher. Thomas had watched the worry lines deepen around Sarah's eyes, had seen her become quieter with each passing season. He had felt helpless, unable to fix the one thing that mattered most, their future. Then one autumn morning, Sarah had packed a single suitcase. She had stood in the doorway, her hand on the frame, tears streaming down her face. "I love you," she had said, her voice breaking like dry timber. "But I can't watch this place die. I can't watch us die with it." Thomas had not tried to stop her. What could he offer her except more struggling, more worry, more slow decline? She had moved east to the city, found work with an agricultural research company, and built a new life. They had exchanged letters for the first few years, then occasional emails, then nothing at all. The silence between them had grown like prairie grass, tall and impossible to see through. Thomas had stayed. He had sold off most of the cattle, leased out the grazing land, and taken odd jobs in town. He had kept the buildings standing, even though they stood mostly empty. He had lived alone in the big house, eating simple meals at the kitchen table, listening to the wind move through the empty rooms like a ghost searching for something it had lost. But 3 months ago, everything had changed. A lawyer had called from Chicago. Sarah had died suddenly, a heart attack in her office. She was only 62. The news had hit Thomas like a falling beam. He had sat down hard in his chair, the phone pressed to his ear, unable to form words. All those years of silence, and now there would never be a chance to break it. The lawyer had continued talking. Sarah had left everything to Thomas. There was not much money in her bank account, but there was something else. Something she had been working on for the past 15 years. Something she had wanted him to have. That something was currently hidden beneath the white sheet in his front yard. Thomas took a slow breath and walked toward the sheet. His boots whispered through the dry grass, his heart beat steady but heavy in his chest. He reached down and grasped the corner of the fabric. For a moment he hesitated. Then he pulled. The sheet fell away like water. Beneath it sat a machine. It was compact, about the size of a large refrigerator made of brushed steel and dark plastic. Solar panels formed a canopy on top, tilted to catch the sun. A control panel on the front displayed numbers and graphs in soft blue light. Attached to the side was a plaque with an engraved label. Atmospheric Water Generator, Model SW1, Patent Pending. Designed by Sarah Whitaker. Thomas stared at it. He walked around it slowly, running his hand along its smooth surface. According to the documents the lawyer had sent, this machine could pull water directly from the air. It used solar power to cool air until moisture condensed, then filtered and purified it. In dry climates, it could produce up to 50 gallons of clean water per day. 50 gallons of water made from nothing but sunshine and air. Sarah had invented it. She had spent 15 years working on this problem. She had seen the drought cycles getting worse across the West, had watched communities struggle as wells ran dry and rivers shrank to threads. She had remembered this ranch, these grasslands, this endless sky. And she had built something that could help. The lawyer had explained that agricultural companies were already bidding for the patent. They saw applications for remote farms, disaster relief, developing nations. The offers had reached $500,000. Maybe more. Sarah had refused to sell during her lifetime, wanting to perfect the design first. Now the decision belonged to Thomas, $500,000. It was more money than Thomas had ever imagined having. It could pay off every debt, restore every building, buy new equipment, restock the herd. It could bring this ranch back to life. But Sarah had not just sent him money. She had sent him something she had built with her own hands, something she had poured her mind and heart into. She had sent him a piece of herself. Thomas opened the storage compartment on the machine's side. Inside were several notebooks, filled with Sarah's neat handwriting. Sketches of prototypes, failed attempts and successful breakthroughs. Pages and pages of calculations, observations, questions. On the last page of the final notebook she had written a letter. "Thomas," it began, "I'm sorry I left. I'm sorry I stayed away. I told myself I was building a better life, but the truth is I was running from pain. I thought leaving would hurt less than staying and watching everything fall apart. I was wrong. Leaving hurt every single day. I built this machine for places like our ranch, for people like us. I wanted to solve the problem that drove us apart. I know I can't undo the past, but maybe this can help build a different future. I never stopped loving that land. I never stopped loving you. Do with this what you think is best. You always knew that place better than anyone. All my love, Sarah." Thomas read the letter 3 times. His eyes blurred. His throat tightened. He folded the letter carefully and put it in his pocket. He looked at the machine. He looked at the ranch house, with its stone foundation and red barn, standing strong despite everything. He thought about Sarah, working in her city office, solving problems, thinking about this place, carrying it with her all those years. She had left, but she had never really gone. Thomas made his decision. He would not sell the patent to the big companies. Instead, he would work with small manufacturers to produce the machines at cost. He would set up a foundation in Sarah's name to distribute them to struggling ranches and rural communities across the West. He would turn her invention into something that could help the places and people she had always cared about. The money did not matter. What mattered was continuing what she had started. Thomas activated the machine. It hummed to life, its solar panels tilting toward the sun. Within minutes, the first drops of water began to collect in the reservoir, clear and pure. He filled a cup and tasted it. It was cold and sweet, tasting of sky and sunlight. He poured the water onto the ground at his feet. It darkened the soil, sinking deep into the earth. "Welcome home, Sarah," he whispered. The wind moved through the grass. Somewhere nearby a meadowlark sang. The ranch stood quiet and patient beneath the wide Montana sky, ready for whatever came next.